This is Lethal, the #1 ranked North American tracer, and he's freaking insane. And Lethal climbed to rank 1 this season with primarily tracer with an over 75% win rate. And he does it for 5 major reasons. We're going to break down his gameplay and showcase the 5 things that you could incorporate to dominate on tracer just like Lethal does. But do me a huge solid and smash the like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let me know what hero you want me to do next, and let's get into the video. Now, Lethal was kind enough to send us some replay codes from his gameplay on an alt account, and all of his social links will be in the description down below. Now, the first of 5 that I want to showcase about Lethal's playstyle is his vertical transversing. And this is so important for getting in the right positions to add a ton of pressure to the enemy and vertically challenge people that are on the high ground. First off, let's showcase right here where he just puts himself in a position to actually poke from height, where he blinks across here and he's playing here. Not only is he scouting the enemy team, but he puts himself in a high ground position where he can poke a little bit and get that information. Now we're going to see him take verticality again over here where he goes up on the stairs, he blinks across, and it's going to allow him to kill this Ana. And he's going to do this again later on as he's traveling back to his team when he blinks across, and he uses a lot of these steps, either stairs or some stepping stool, in order to utilize blinks to travel across distances and get to high ground positions. Now you might not think that being able to travel like this is that important, but you're going to see in this example how he utilizes it to heavily clear the enemy high ground and put a lot of pressure on the enemy team's back line right here, where he uses not only a jump up on this box but 2 blinks to get to the high ground. And then from here, after he not only scouts but gets his cooldowns back, he's gonna go and challenge the enemy Widow off the other top high ground. So a lot of times on Tracer, players have a really hard time playing this map because you don't have easy access to the high ground. But if you use blinks like this, not only can you take the high ground, but from here, you can easily contest over here or over here, clearing the enemy team and wrangling them to the middle of the point, or basically challenging anyone on high ground, forcing them to come play very linearly in an area where you can control them. Tracer is a lot about containing enemies, and this is a great way to do so. Now, the second thing that I really want to showcase about Lethal's gameplay is something that I like to call aim discipline. Now, in a second, we're going to watch him shoot at the enemy Junker Queen, and I'm going to test you and see if you notice what special thing that he's doing that a lot of Tracer players don't do in this engagement. Let's watch it, and let's see if you got it. Now, that was really subtle. Did you miss it, or did you spot what he does that's just so special that's actually really hard to do? So let's back this up a little bit. I want you to really notice when he decides to stop firing, because this is important. Notice how when the second his crosshair is removed from the target, he will stop firing and then refire when the crosshair really lines up. And you might be saying, this is obvious, Mills. You see a target, you press the trigger. When they're not in your crosshair, you don't. But that's not how Tracers normally play. The vast majority of Tracers, and this is even top 500 Tracers, Grandmaster Tracers, will continuously fire. They'll put a target in their crosshair initially, and they will hold down the fire button the entire time while trying to track the target. Even if the crosshair leaves the target, they will still fire, wasting bullets and then recorrect it on the target. This is very inefficient, not only for your ammo count, but it actually ruins your aim. And consistently resetting like this before you fire is increasing your overall accuracy and making it so that you're more intentful with the bullets that you're using, overall increasing your mechanical skill. And this discipline is incredibly important on tracking based characters, especially Tracer, and he does this consistently, and it's one of the reasons why he often has more bullets than the enemy Tracers, which means he'll win enemy 1v1s, he'll add more pressure to the enemy team, and he'll get kills or apply pressure using the full clip of Tracer rather than just dumping a ton of bullets into thin air. Now, the next thing that I really want to showcase about Lethal is his understanding and control of line of sight. Watch what he does here as he blinks up to this pillar. He knows that the enemy is right next to him, but watch as he's applying pressure to the enemy diva. He knows that this Sojourn is waiting for him to peek, but he is not peeking the Sojourn intentionally and still applying pressure to the enemy. This forces this Sojourn to waste their time while at the same time still being active in the team fight. And this is something that is incredibly important. Having control and understanding about where enemies are and who's trying to peek you, but actively not peeking them while still not doing nothing. And this is super, super strong. Notice how the Sojourn is basically just standing there doing nothing for the majority of that fight. Yes, he does eventually peak, but the Sojourn basically held this angle instead of his team nonstop. He baited the enemy D.Va's attention, so he's getting 2 people to go after him for just his presence here, forcing both of them to be non-active in the fight, and ultimately, this is going to allow his teammates to take a ton of space, which they do. And it's just a really, really great play from a Tracer's point of view, because your presence there can't be ignored. And if the Sojourn hypothetically, let's say, decided to ignore him and go fight his team, he would have an opportunity to either blink in closer, attack the Ana, take more space, or push up to another ground where he's still peeking the enemy D.Va, applying pressure, but is capable of pivoting onto another target at a moment's notice. And we're gonna kind of combine this with some other tips later on. Now I want you to notice this situation right here where he's once again on the high ground, very intentionally peeking this soldier without peeking the enemy Zen or the enemy Sojourn, which is really, really important. He's putting a lot of pressure on this person without peeking anyone else because he's taking an isolated engagement here, even though he's effectively like in the semi-open. I mean, he has this wall, but this wall is denying the enemy any peeks at him while he still shoots and harasses the enemy front line. Now, this combines with the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the fact that Lethal is a greedy, wicked opportunist. And what I mean by that is he's often ready and willing to pivot at a moment's notice. And I want you to see this situation where he backs away from this D.Va and he notices this Ana has very low HP because he tickled the Ana and he saw that she took some damage from another source and then she used her nade. So now, not only is he going to utilize the verticality blinks that we talked about before, where you can blink slightly on elevation here because it's a cross, but he's going to also push himself into this room, so he's only peeking this Ana instead of the rest of the enemy team. This D.Va, this soldier, this Sojourn, none of these guys are fighting. He's not fighting on this lip where he could get shot at from multiple people. He blinks himself inside the building where it's a true 1v1 between him and the enemy Ana. And here, he's going to try to finish off, and he's going to use that control discipline, that aim discipline that we talked about before, and he's going to finish off this Ana. So far in this fight, he took that high ground. He applied a ton of pressure to the enemy D.Va, who's had to peel multiple times and has to acknowledge him. He's forced the Sojourn to waste her time. He has poked and applied pressure to the enemy soldier, and he looked and found an opportunity to punish the Ana in the middle of all of that. So he's heavily applying pressure while at the same time being that greedy, wicked opportunist that sees a kill and goes for it, isolating the target in front of him. Really, really great stuff. Now, this all comes hand in hand with this last part I wanted to show you, which is basically him forcing the enemy tank to notice him. And this is something that he will often do that is really, really strong. While he doesn't want to waste time just constantly dueling an enemy DPS and trading 1-for-1, he will apply heavy pressure while making sure that he's conserving cooldowns to an enemy tank. And he does it from angles just like this one that he's fighting this tank from. He's safe here. He's not using a lot of blinks here. He still has full HP, but he's being a constant gnat to this enemy D.Va. But he always has the blinks and the recall ready so that if he has to, he can pivot on an enemy player on the other side. And distracting the tank of the enemy team is typically worth that trade, because you're not really trading 1v1 when you're distracting the enemy tank, because the tank is typically worth more pound for pound. And if you can apply extra pressure to that tank, your tank can win and leverage that, and your team can leverage the space that the enemy tank is giving up. So he's just going to be applying a ton of pressure here. And still, like right here, he's applying pressure still, but he has this cover, right? He never is applying pressure here or here because it's going to force him to use a ton of blinks while he's applying pressure. He's using a bit of cover and applying pressure here. And you might be saying, okay, what happens if someone comes out and chases him? Well, he could just run away, and that's pretty easy, and he distracted a lot of people to kind of come and clear him out. Or there will be opportunities and times where he will just punish the person. Let's say the soldier wraps around this thing. He could walk out here and start to duel the soldier without the Zen being able to see him. and fight the soldier and potentially kill him and recall and then blink away, hypothetically. So you got to understand that all of these pieces of Lethal come together that make him such a freaking deadly tracer. And this is exactly why I think that Lethal is such a great freaking tracer right now, and he's definitely someone that we can learn from. But you got to let me know down below, what character do you want to see me do next? And please check out Lethal. His Twitch and his Twitter will be in the links down below. Thank you for coming by. Smash the like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.